Well, I was a trainer coach at the Ajax Academy for the under 12 age group. This is 2007, 2008, and 2009. And I worked with the 96, 97, and the 98 age groups at the time. There was two under 13 groups, and the top group was coached by Frank de Boer at the time. He was a up and coming trainer. He was in a learning phase. And there was a rookie trainer with the other under 13 group, and that was Dennis Bergkamp. So the three of us basically designed the program for under 12 and under 13. And because of all the expertise in the academy, they identified that the 97 group was the most talented group at the time. So 96 was average in Holland in general. 97 was above average, and 98 was also above average, but not as good as 97. The 97 group, they were, in my opinion, they were right, because Abdel Nouri was in that group, and unfortunately he had heart failure in Austria during training camp. Donny van de Beek was in that group, who plays for Manchester United right now. Steven Bergwijn was in that group, who is playing for Spurs at the moment. Mazraoui was in that group, who is now in Ajax first team. Schaick was in there. He plays for Hertha BSC in Bundesliga. And there's 4 or 5 others that are playing in Dutch league now. So they didn't succeed at the highest level, but at least they are playing. So very fortunate with that. And then Frenkie de Jong came later. So he came later into the 97 age group. So high quality. And we could identify already at under 12 that this was very special. And then it's a way of, you have to nurture the flower, make sure that they don't get injured, make sure that the parents have realistic expectations. I was very happy to work with them. I mean, to be honest, I did not have to teach them a lot. They were teaching each other, right? Because if you put a group of players together that are of high quality, in training, they are pushing each other to a very high standard. So the learning was a lot in the training, and then they would showcase themselves in games. So, and I just had to make sure to keep them happy, So it was not, with the 97 group, it was not so difficult. Yeah, no, one that was clear was the style of football, which was 1-4-3-3 with a number 10. So you had 2 defending midfield players, and you had a creative number 10. So that at the time was the model. And the other thing that was important was they were, for example, Donny van de Beek, who was a right-footed player, highly talented, but we kept him in the under 12 age group, but sometimes played him on the left-hand side so he could develop his left foot. Currently in the Ajax model, if you are above average, they are pushing you to the next age group. So they're focusing less on the weaker foot, but they want you to be challenged in an environment with older players. So that was one. Second, the methodology was warming up, technical training, tactical training, and then see how you can apply it in a small-sided match, 5 against 5, or 6 against 6, or 7 against 7, or 8 against 8, based upon the numbers that you had available. So that was at that time. And currently it is changed because they are using more methodologies throughout the week. So sometimes it's play, practice, play. Sometimes is physical training, technical training, game, technical training, game. So they do more variations, and that part has to do with the fact that children need impulses. They need to have inspiration to give 110%. So the leading element is always the first team. So if the first team plays 1-4-3-3 with the number 10, then all academy teams that play 11 against 11 have to follow the same structure. And in my period, we first played with the 10, and then 2 years later we changed because of Cruyff's involvement, and he said we want to play with the number 6, like a Busquets type of player, and then 2 attacking midfield players. So it was more progressive, but now it is changed back to 1-4-3-3 with the number 10. And one reason for that is that if you play with the number 10 and the opponent has possession, the number 10 is leading in when they are going to press. So if he's pressing, everybody will follow. And if you play with 2 attacking midfield players, they first have to be in some sort of an agreement who is going to press first. And then usually you miss the moment and they are not so effective with that. So now it's back to number 10. And I think if you look at the DNA and the history of the club, that also fits a little bit better. So the style of play is determined by first team. The style of training is more determined by the academy, because the academy has a long history of success. So there is specific exercises for each age group, and they are progressive once you are maturing into the program. But the subjects are more or less the same. So there's technical training, there's passing and receiving, there's positional play, there's heading, there's finishing, there's attack versus defense type of exercises, but it is all connected to each other. And I think that is important. And it is also important, like I said, the style of the football, because if a player as a right fullback does well and he's moved up one team, the responsibility is exactly the same, but just the game is more physical and more quicker. But you don't have to explain to the player what he's supposed to do, because he already knows. So I think those are 2 critical elements into the program, that there is a consistency from young to old, and they just want to perfect that consistency. They want to perfect that style. And with the high pressing, it is a very difficult style to learn. But, you know, it is a style that not always is the best for results, but is the best, in our opinion, for personal development of each individual. So he can become the best he can be in the program, and later maybe outside of the program. We emphasize first on the technical training, because if you master the ball, then you don't have to look down at the ball anymore, and you can look up and see the field and see which decisions you can make. So we really focused on first try to pass, because the ball is the quickest object on the field. And if you are not able to pass, then you beat somebody 1 against 1 with your skill and speed. And of course, when you are under 12, under 13, we emphasize that any part of the field. So we want them to take risk. We want them to come out of their comfort zone and show how good you can be in a certain situation. We did not want players to play in comfort zone. And as an example, and you can relate to that, if you see Frenkie de Jong play, he receives the ball, he turns open, he plays it to the left, to the right, he plays it to the right team players. But what is his effect on the outcome of the match? How effective is he in the final third? Very limited. Yeah, so we wanted at the young age, he said, no, you have to show added value. You have to show something special, yeah, that is going to make the game change. And so continuously focus on that, and then give them specific targets. If you are a right winger, the target could be in the first half, you need to deliver 3 crosses. And if you are the number 10 player, you need to have 2 shots on goal. So we can be very specific on the task individually. And of course, there is a certain team concept, but you need to trigger them in a certain way. And then you can have a discussion at halftime whether they reach their goals for that.
Okay.
Yes, you could see, well, I can give some of the examples like I mentioned. You could see with Schaick, for example, that he was determined to become a professional player. So every day he would ask, what can I do better? What can I do to improve? Can you help me? Continue, will you always? Yes, I'll always help you. So he had something in his character to be successful. If you look at Donny van de Beek, who was a very kind person, he had great learning ability. So if you show him something, he would basically save it on his hard disk and try to make it even more specific, make it his own. So he would always come with also in training, if we had an exercise, he'd come with ideas on how to improve on the exercise. So he was giving me feedback on how to prepare a better exercise for the next time. If you look at Mazraoui, which was interesting because he was very average in the academy, and he was playing different positions. And it was unsure whether he was going to be a professional player. So he was added to Ajax reserve team, basically to have players on the squad. But he was fortunate that the trainer coach from the reserve team became the head coach mid-season, and he took him with him to first team. So you also need a little bit of luck that somebody is believing in your abilities. And then the last one, that was Bergwijn. He was very selfish, but very determined to score goals. So he was not really a team player. He was more an individual player that was always looking after himself. So we worked with him that, it's okay to be determined and to be selfish, but you still need somebody that is going to feed you with the ball. So you need to make friends in the team. If you don't have friends, they're not going to play the ball to you. So every child is different. Every position is more or less different. But you try to help them the best way possible. And what makes them unique is what we focus on. Yeah. So in some academies, as I've seen, they focus a lot on the weaker foot. They focus a lot on what children are not capable of doing. But in Ajax Academy, what makes you unique needs to come out more frequent. Yeah, and what you are struggling with, whether it is heading or your weaker foot, okay, we manage, but we focus always on the uniqueness of the of the player, and I think that also is a success factor for the program. Yeah, well, one thing you have to keep in mind is between 13 and 16, they go through puberty phase. So the psychology of the player is changing. The body is also changing. Between 8 and 12, they have a lot of support from the parents. Between 13 and 16, they develop their own character and they become a very specific person. And you don't know what is happening exactly. You don't know what's happening in the families, whether there is a balance in the family, whether there is no or there is economic stress in the family, because that all affects your performance and your behavior in the football academy. So Ajax, when I was there working with under 12, under 13, the players were still in their own environment. They were still going to the schools in their environment, in their area, but now they changed. So when they go to high school now, all the education takes place at the Ajax Academy. So they come in the morning, they have a light training, then they have classes in the building, they have lunch together, and they have the team training in the afternoon. And then there's time for them to do the homework with the counselor. They feed them again, they shower them, and they make sure that they are going in a minivan going back home. So now they have more control on many other aspects of the player, and they can see right away when there is something lacking on behavior or they are struggling with academics. They right away can make an intervention on that. So they have better control on the player environment at this point, and hopefully because they started with this last year, hopefully that will have a better success rate in the future. But of course you don't know because every year they are evaluating whether the decisions that are being made in the program, whether they are correct, whether they are delivering better percentages, and if not, they adjust. And I think that is also one of the qualities in the Ajax program. If a player is not developing as quick as they were thinking, they first look at the staff and they first look at the program and say, okay, maybe for this player, the program is not well suited, so we have to make an adjustment. And if they make an adjustment, then the player has to show different football behavior. So the football players are protected in the program in that way. And then certain other programs that I know, they question the quality of the players or his behavior or his attitude or anything right away from the beginning to protect themselves.